consumer
In terms
goods.
of the Southeast relationship, have you extended an open invitation for representatives of these states in the U.S. to come and see your advances in alternative energy?
Well, that's part of what we want to work on. We've had the visit of Governor Perdue. He was in Montreal in the summer of 2005 and returned last November. And we will be hosting him, I hope, over the next few months again for the 400th anniversary of the foundation of Quebec City. So all the governors have been invited. But we are going to look at areas where universities and research centers can work together. Wood products is a very good example. We are working on projects for cellulosic ethanol using wood waste. And I know there are projects, industrial projects here in the state of Georgia. So those are areas where we can work together. What's interesting about the southeastern United States for us is two things. You've had stronger economic growth than the average growth in America, and your demographic growth is very strong, which means there's going to be economic growth that comes with that. So those two things combined certainly make this part of the world very interesting for investment.
On another subject, do you think that Canada's health system is going to be used as a model during this current election?
I'd be surprised if it would. I think there's not a lot known about our healthcare system. It's a difficult thing to explain, and unless you've experienced it, and I think people would easily caricature our healthcare system if it were offered as a model. There are things you could borrow from it. I'm a big believer in our healthcare system. Canada has a universal, accessible healthcare system, a state-run system, a mixed state-run system that makes healthcare accessible to all our citizens. It has its problems. It does. But you know, all the healthcare systems in the world have their problems. At the end of the day, the question is which system offers the most access the most rapidly. And I know our system works very well. It's one I believe in. Works very well while acknowledging that there are issues of wait times and there are issues of lack of manpower also. You know, we have shortages of doctors, nurses, technicians, but so do you, and so does the rest of the world.
Were you disheartened by the collapse of the free trade area of the Americas initiative?
We were disappointed that it did not get off the ground, and we saw Latin America, from our vantage point, further polarize around some regimes that were more populist. And now, frankly, I don't know where it will go. I don't know whether there will be another opening, but certainly, who knows whether the next president will see an opportunity there, and that will be key. But recently we had the visit of Michelle Bachelet, who is the president of Chile. She was in Quebec last week. And the Chileans, as you probably know, have done a number of trade agreements and have done very well. So it'll take leadership on both the North and the South to make that happen. If the project is reopened and if it's put forward again, I have no doubt that Canada would be very supportive of that.
You were recently in Europe, I
Yep.
understand. Were you surprised by Ambassador Giffin's comments that the European Union is way ahead of the Western Hemisphere?
Well, it's a very different context. And the big difference between the European Union and North America is that in the European Union you have a multiplicity of countries within one agreement. 25 countries, 25 are part of. Now, and within this grouping of 25 countries, there's not one country that totally dominates the others. There's Germany and France and Great Britain, which are fairly big economies, but they don't dominate totally the others. So there's a balance there. The difference in the case of North America is that there are 3 countries with the Americans dominating both partners. And that's a whole different dynamic from what we have in the European Union. And the European Union is having its integration issues. You know, the recent referendum in Ireland that came out this week rejecting the Lisbon Treaty that would have changed their institutions is an example of the difficulties they're having in Europe to go a step further. In our case, my hope is that as we look ahead, if we really look at the whole Americas, and if we get our interest right, I think all of us in the North, Canada and the United States, will understand that the next big market is at the south of our borders. 100 million people in Mexico who are richer, who are more competitive, who are going to buy our products. Now, if we go down that line all the way down to Brazil, where there's, 160 million people, I think, or close to or around, those are big markets. That's where our interest. Now, are we ready to dive in and, take that risk? Frankly, everything I know is that if we do that, we'll all come out winners. And we'll have partners that are more prosperous, they'll have more democracy. They will live better, they will have a better quality of life, less poverty in the world. But to do that requires a leap of faith.
Just one last question. How concerned are you in terms of these far-reaching goals by the price of oil?
I'm very concerned because I don't know where this is leading us. Most of the experts we listen to say two things: that it's not going to get cheaper; it will become more expensive, and A, and B, it's going to last into the near future, the foreseeable future. So no one is telling us that this is a blip. We're trying to figure out. Governments, frankly, now are still trying to work their way through what does this really mean for our economy. I'm come from an area where we have a lot of hydropower. So, and it's cheap in Quebec. I mean, it's the cheapest price in North America is in Quebec and Manitoba. Will this mean that a lot of people will be converting their heating systems to hydro? What will it mean for the prices of hydro? What will it mean for the environment? What will it mean for biofuels? For all these are real questions. It's going to call on a lot of innovation on our part, and I believe in man's ability to adapt. I think we are now going to have to adapt.
On that note, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden.